Hey church, and welcome to another Sunday service with us, Christ Central. My name is Nick, I'm one of the pastors here, and I'm delighted you've joined us, whether you're watching via a house church or whether you're watching online via YouTube. I just want to say thank you for tuning in and checking it out. We say this every week, but our vision here at Christ Central is to help people find their place in God's big story. And if you are watching for the first or second time, this is one of your earliest interactions with us as a church, I want to encourage you, reach out to us. You can email us at hello@christcentral.nyc. We'd love to get to know you, and we'd love to help you on your spiritual journey to finding God. Today, before we jump into the message, just have a few announcements to share. And the first thing I want to do is just give you some dates of some events that we've got coming up. First things first, Monday the 26th, you're watching on Sunday, that's tomorrow, at 8:15 at our place on 72nd Street. We are going to gather together to pray. You know, prayer is just such a fundamental, foundational thing for a believer. It's coming before God, thanking Him, praising Him, communicating with Him, listening, talking. And, you know, the Bible talks about prayer so often. You know, Jesus, I'm always struck. He doesn't say if you pray, He says when you pray. And we as a church kind of get together every month to pray together corporately. And I just want to encourage you, make a priority out of prayer. Come and join us. If you can't join us in person, if you're still not comfortable, then let us know. You can join on Zoom and listen in and pray with us. But listen, don't give up praying. Keep on praying, keep on seeking God, and do it in a corporate setting with us. The second event that I want to invite you to is on Sunday the 2nd of May. We are going to gather together from 4 till 6 p.m. at the Botanical Gardens in Bay Ridge on 71st and Shore. And we're going to get together to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. We have a family in our church who are from Mexico. We want to celebrate their culture. We want to celebrate them. And so we want to encourage you, invite some friends, come down dressed in Mexican colors, come down with Mexican food. We'll probably order some tacos and stuff, but come and celebrate with us, come and be together, come and have fun, invite some friends, and we're going to have a great time. Sunday the 2nd of May, celebrating Cinco de Mayo together. The third thing I wanted to let you know about this morning, something I'm really excited about, is on Sunday the 9th of May. Now listen, first and foremost, it's Mother's Day that day. So dads, sons, guys, get that in your phone, making sure that you know that Sunday the 9th of May is Mother's Day, and celebrate the mums in your life. And but on that Sunday for church, we are going to have a special interview with Joy Redicott. Now, if you don't know, Joy has been serving refugees all over the world in the last 6 months. She's just come back to the States, and I'm so excited to hear about her adventures with YWAM, the organisation she's been with. I've spent a little bit of time with her since she's been back, and I'm so pumped and excited that we get to partake and hear what God has been doing in her and all around the world. So really want to encourage you, if you can't get to a house church that Sunday, please make sure you check out the video on our YouTube channel afterwards. The final announcement before I jump into this morning's message is that we are as a team looking at what it means for us to begin to reopen. And we are looking towards the fall to have a relaunch party, a relaunch gathering on a Sunday morning. But we're looking at all sorts of different options as to what it looks like for us as a church to begin meeting again. And we're going to be very social over the summer. But I just want to put this out there. If you have ideas, you have thoughts, you have concerns, you feel like God's speaking to you about stuff, I want to encourage you, please let us know. This is not a church where it's just about one guy or one team making all the decisions. We want to be a family, and that means coming together, talking together, empowering one another, and moving together forward as a family. And I just want to encourage you, reach out to us, let us know how you're feeling. You can do that by emailing us at hello@christcentral.nyc. I'd love to hear your thoughts, love to connect with you, and see what God is going to be doing through us in these next 6 to 9 months. So that's for me. I've tried to rattle through those quickly because this morning we've got a treat. Gareth Forsey is speaking to us. He is going to be continuing our series through the Gospel of Luke. We've been in Luke for, I guess, probably 3 months now, and it's been such a great series. I've loved it. Diving into Jesus and looking at his parables and his teaching and what his life was like, and really profound in so many different ways for me personally. And Gareth's going to be continuing our series in that. Now, Gareth is a pastor up in New Hampshire. He helps to lead New Frontiers Church in Portsmouth. He helps to oversee us as well. He's a dear friend. He's been so supportive of everything we're doing, so helpful to us, to Seth and Reed, to this whole project that we're trying to launch here in Brooklyn. So please lean in. Ask yourself, Jesus, what do you want to say to me through Gareth today? Focus, take notes. And I really hope this message encourages and blesses you. So Gareth, over to you.
Thanks, Nick. I am really excited to have this opportunity to share with you today. As you can probably already tell by my accent, I am not a native New Englander. I'm more of an Old Englander. I'm actually from the island of Guernsey. That's the Guernsey of the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society book and movie fame. And no, before you ask, the movie was not filmed on the island. Growing up on an island, I spent a lot of my youth on the water. When our family first moved to the United States, we lived in Connecticut by Long Island Sound, and we were fortunate enough to have a boat, which we loved to stay on board overnight with our kids. We would often anchor in the bay by the Norwalk Islands so we could swim and enjoy the water. One sunny July day we dropped anchor and we enjoyed a wonderful afternoon with the kids, jumping off the boat, swimming and playing with the water toys. The weather was spectacular, so much so we decided to make a night of it. We ate dinner and then we settled down to watch the sunset. There must have been 30 other families with the same idea. The bay was full of boats. After dark, we headed off to sleep in our bunks, looking forward to waking up on the water the next morning. There is something magical about waking up to watch a sunrise on the water. About an hour after we retired for the night, I woke up to a whistling sound. I got up thinking that it was just the wind blowing through an open porthole, and sure enough, it was. So I shut the porthole and was just about to head back to my bunk when I thought I'd take a look on deck, see what was going on. I went to put my foot on the deck, but it wasn't there anymore. The boat had begun to jump around and I ended up on the cockpit floor. The wind picked up fast, and I realised we were on the edge of a squall line, behind which I could see on the radar there was a major line of storms that was not predicted in the weather forecast. I could hear noises coming from down below as Ray and the kids were being tossed around in their bunks. Eventually, worried faces appeared at the hatch. The storm grew in violence and anger. Over the radio, I could hear anxious boaters speaking with the Coast Guard about the rapidly deteriorating circumstances. Within moments, huge waves were breaking over the bow and the boat was flying around. The bow under the water at 1 minute and up high in the air the next. We had never seen or experienced anything like it. And then we began to hear reports of boats breaking loose and drifting towards the sandbar. At that moment, a sailboat drifted by us. It was so close. Even in the dark, I could see the owner desperately trying to get his motor going. The violent tossing of the boat really scared the kids, but we couldn't move the boat. The waves were just too big and it was low tide, so we wouldn't have been able to get across the sandbar to get back to the harbour anyway. We had to ride it out. It was so uncomfortable and scary, but we were safe. Our anchor was well set and it was tightly secured to the boat. The stronger the wind got, the deeper the anchor dug into the seabed, and the boat held firm. We made it through to the morning. In fact, it was a beautiful, calm morning. The water was glassy clear. It was as if the storm had never happened. That's except for the boats hanging high and dry on the sandbar. The writer to the Hebrews tells us that the hope we have in Jesus is a strong, trustworthy anchor for our souls. Those who flee to him for refuge can have great confidence in him. He is our anchor, our security in the midst of life's biggest storms. In Luke's Gospel, he tells the story about a terrifying storm Jesus and the disciples faced while crossing the Sea of Galilee. Let's take a look at it in Luke chapter 8. One day, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's cross over to the other side of the lake." So they got in a boat and they started out. As they sailed across, Jesus settled down for a nap. But soon a fierce storm came on the lake. The boat was filling with water and they were in real danger. The disciples went and they woke him up shouting, "Master, Master, we're going to drown." When Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and the raging waves. Suddenly the storm just stopped and all was calm. Then he asked them, "Where was your faith?" The disciples were terrified and amazed. "Who is this man?" they asked each other. "When he gives a command, even the wind and the waves obey him." The Sea of Galilee is known for its storms coming out of nowhere. It lies in a deep basin surrounded by hills, which creates the ideal conditions for storms to suddenly arise. So this story would have likely been well appreciated and understood by Luke's readers. The disciples were experienced fishermen, and the Sea of Galilee was their local fishing ground. They would have known these waters intimately. They would have also encountered many storms while fishing on the lake, and they'd have gotten through them all. Yet this one was different. This was a storm they couldn't handle. None of their experience could help them this time. They were at its mercy. They knew they were facing death. They had probably been bailing water out like mad, but it wasn't enough. They were sinking. So when they woke Jesus up, it was because they knew they were about to drown. They screamed at him, "We're gonna drown!" This was clearly a worse storm than the one we faced on Long Island Sound. As terrifying as Luke tells us it was, the story's almost comical. These burly fishermen faced with this perfect storm were scared stiff. This was more than they could handle. Uncontrollable power had been unleashed in the storm and they were in fear of their lives. So they shouted to Jesus, all the while asleep in the boat, "Wake up, we're gonna die!" But think about that for a moment. They had to wake Jesus up. He was still asleep. Imagine the craziness of the situation. The boat was being tossed around on a wild sea. Water was crashing into the boat to the extent that it was sinking. But Jesus was peacefully asleep. Put yourself in their situation. Can you imagine them shaking him awake? "Jesus, we're gonna die! You too, pal! This is real!" Jesus wakes, looks around, and then gives this command that immediately results in the sea becoming as calm as glass. Whoa! Now they're even more terrified. It says they were filled with great fear, but not of the storm, but of Jesus. Who is this guy? Tim Keller said, "If he's not God, then you and I are at the mercy of the storm. We're at the mercy of the forces of nature that are outside of our control. In which case, do what you want with your life. It doesn't really matter. Nature will destroy us in the end. We're all going to die one day. If Jesus is not God, then we're at the mercy of the storm." But what if Luke described did happen? If Jesus is God, then you and I are at his mercy. And the point is, we can't control him either. That's what we see in the response of the disciples. Their fear of the storm was replaced by a fear of something so much greater than even a storm that was about to take their lives. Most of us spend our whole lives trying to keep in control. We have this built-in need to control our lives and our surroundings. But why? It's mostly because of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of forces that are outside of our control. It's basically self-protection. We try to control our worlds to minimize the pain we may experience otherwise. Sometimes people have been badly hurt, maybe through abuse or rejection. We make a subconscious decision not to allow that to happen again. Maybe we won't let people get close to us, or we put on a front. We project an image that we think people will like and accept, because at the same time, not wanting to be hurt, we do desperately need approval and acceptance. The balance is difficult to maintain sometimes, to allow people close enough to be affirmed, but far enough away to minimize the risk of being hurt or let down. But all the time we are seeking to be in control, even if that means controlling or manipulating others. Sometimes we can even do it without realizing it. And often the more hurt we've been, the more people have let us down or rejected us, the more in control we believe we need to be. This is something we all do to an extent. It can be a scary world out there. Who will take care of me? Is there anyone I can really trust? Who will really take care of my interests or my needs? Our response is often, I have to. I can't leave it to others. I can't risk that. I have to be in control. And it's not just fear about being hurt, it's also fear of the unknown. We all crave security. I suspect most of us here feel better when we know what we're doing and what to expect. It's hard to live with confusion, the unknown, that feeling of helplessness and inadequacy. So we do what we can to remain in control. For some, that can sadly lead to the pain and suffering of addictive disorders. But even for the majority of us mercifully spared from addictions, when life leaves us feeling helpless and vulnerable, when we find ourselves in a storm or in a circumstance we can't control, we usually react just like the disciples. These guys were used to being in control. They were seasoned fishermen. But here they found themselves at the mercy of uncontrollable forces. They were fearful, anxious, and probably angry at Jesus. Don't you care? We're drowning and you're sleeping? I wonder how many of us watching this have expressed similar emotions, maybe with others or with God. But you know, the really scary thing for us is, however much we may think we are in control, it's just an illusion. The reality is that life is a storm. We are at the mercy of cruel and impersonal forces beyond our control. Things happen in life that we can't do anything about. Life doesn't always cooperate with us. Someone close to us may betray our trust. We might lose our job. COVID hits and we lose the freedoms we take so for granted. We don't like to think about these things, but they're real. Stuff happens. Not only that, but we're buffeted about by things that are beyond us. We get sick. Our bodies are wearing out. We can't prevent the decay. It's unstoppable. Death is coming to us all in the end. Ultimately, we are not in control of our lives. Even the relief we get from controlling the little things we can is just an illusion. We are at the mercy of the storm, and it is terrifying to look into the center of that eye and know we are not in control of life. So what do we do when we face this terrible reality? Well, often that's why people turn to God, because there has to be an answer. There has to be a way to make sense out of our world. That's what the disciples did. They turned to Jesus, having done everything in their own power to save themselves. But there was a problem. Where was he? He was asleep. They were drowning and he was sleeping. What kind of savior is that? The challenge with coming to Jesus is that so many of us still want to be in control. Like the disciples, we want him to protect us from the storms. We want to use him to make things better for us. We want Jesus for what he can do for us. What we want is a Jesus we can keep in our pocket. A Jesus we can bring out when we need him. As if a Jesus we could keep in our pocket would be able to help us anyway. The problem with this is, it's still on my terms. It's still me needing to be in control. It's about me using Jesus for my own ends. But Jesus will not be controlled. He doesn't come to us on our terms. He doesn't submit to us. We submit to him. He's God. He's the Lord of life. He's the Lord of the universe. He has infinite power, and we cannot control him any more than we can control the storm. That's what the disciples found out. They expected Jesus to be there for them. They were fearful and they were drowning. Where is Jesus when we need him? Doesn't he care about us? Is he asleep? Doesn't he care if we drown? He was the one who told us to go over there to the other side of the lake in the first place. We were just doing what he said. Didn't he know about this storm? Ever asked those kind of questions? I'm just doing what you said, Lord. So why is this happening to me? Why did I get sick? Why did I lose my job? Where are you when I need you, God? Don't you care if I drown? You've gone to sleep on me in my hour of greatest need. I think everyone who has tried to live a life of faith in this world has said or felt this at some time or another. You feel like you're sinking. Everything is going wrong. Where is God in all of this? And then Jesus gets up and with a single command calms the storm. On the one hand, we're faced with the storm, with life, with forces beyond our control, with storms of unmanageable power, we can't control them. But on the other hand, we're confronted with Jesus, with infinitely greater power, but we can't control him either. He lets things happen that we don't understand, and he doesn't always do the things we think he should. So where do we turn? We're at the mercy of the one or the other. What a terrifying prospect for those who need to be in control. And what's the difference? What's the difference between them? There's a huge difference. The difference is the storm doesn't love you. Jesus said to the disciples, "Why were you afraid? Where is your faith?" It's like he's saying, "Don't you know me? You should have known that I can let you go through a storm and still love you. You think that if I really love you, then I wouldn't let bad things happen to you? But I can allow seemingly bad things to happen and still love you, because I am God and I know better than you." In his book, Reasons for God, Tim Keller makes an interesting point. If you have a God who is big enough, powerful enough, infinite enough to be mad at because he doesn't stop your suffering, and you obviously think he is powerful enough to stop your suffering because otherwise you wouldn't be mad at him, then you also have a God who is big enough, powerful enough, and infinite enough to have reasons why he should allow you to suffer that you don't always understand. You can't have it both ways. So where will you go? Will you continue to try and fight on your own in your own strength? Or will you give up control to God, surrender yourself to the mercy and will of God, to his will that is infinitely, immeasurably, unspeakably beyond our largest notions of what he is up to? His ways are not our ways. We will never be able to fathom God. His power is unmanageable, but it is full of love towards us. As C.S. Lewis said of Aslan the lion in the Chronicles of Narnia, of course he's not safe, but he's good. It's like Jesus is saying to his disciples, if you really knew me, you would know that I love you. And if you really knew that I loved you, you would have peace in the storm. Do you know him? Have you given up control of your life to him? Or are you still trying to madly bail the water out to stop yourself from sinking? Listen, Jesus is Lord of the storm. He is in ultimate control. You can trust him. You can have hope in the storm because he is infinitely powerful and unconditionally loving. How can that be true? It's true because on the cross, Jesus was thrown into the ultimate storm. There really is only one storm that can truly sink us, one storm that we should truly be afraid of. That is the storm caused by our sin, our pride, our independence, and our rebellion against God. It's the storm of God's judgment and wrath. It's the perfect storm because it speaks of God's perfect justice and righteousness. Paul tells us that we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, so we all stand condemned. We all face certain death from this storm. We cannot save ourselves. We will perish unless someone saves us. And that's what happened on the cross. Jesus said to the Father, let me die that they may live. Let me pay the price for their sin. So Jesus turned his face into that storm, that ultimate storm of eternal justice. The Bible says he set his face like flint towards Jerusalem, towards the cross, and he bowed his head into the storm. But even as the storm clouds were gathering, when Judas betrayed him and Jesus was praying intensely in the Garden of Gethsemane, his heart so troubled as he faced the horror of this evil storm, where were his disciples in his hour of need? They were asleep. He'd asked them to be with him, to pray with him, but they fell asleep. And later they abandoned him to the storm. It wasn't Jesus who fell asleep on us. We fell asleep on him, like his disciples, like all of mankind. We abandoned him. We denied him. We fell asleep on him. And yet he still loved us. He didn't abandon us. He bowed his head into that storm, and on the cross, he took onto himself the entire wrath of divine judgment. He paid the price with his life. But he didn't stay there. He overcame death and was raised from the dead, and so he is able to save us completely, and he will save all who turn to him. Do you see what that means? It means that if you really understand what Jesus did for you, you will never say, "Lord, don't you care?" Because you will know that he does. And if you know that Jesus did not abandon you in that storm, the ultimate storm, you know he won't abandon you in the smaller storms of life. Jesus is Lord of the storm. He won't forsake you. He won't abandon you. If you don't know him today and you invite him into the boat of your life, you will know that whatever may come, whatever you may have to face in this life, he loves you and he's in control. He is completely loving and infinitely powerful, and he is for you. But we have to give him control. We need to stop bailing, stop going our own way, relying on our own strength. We need to stop trying to save our own lives, stop depending on ourselves and depend on him. Give him control of your life. He won't let you drown. You can trust him. Look at the cross. He loves you and has promised to take you to the other side, and he's already gone there for you. If you're in his boat, you can have complete assurance you will be with him forever. One day there will be a new heaven and a new earth. There will be no more storms. There will be peace. But with Jesus at the helm of your boat, you can know that peace in your heart right now. Are you going through difficulties or uncertainties in your life today? Come on, says Jesus. Don't be afraid. I have infinite power and I love you with an everlasting love. Look at the cross and let your faith be stirred afresh.